Pay app, save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
A crash has closed the off-ramp from eastbound SR 201 at Redwood Road. We're still waiting for more emergency crews to arrive at the scene, but overall, it's not causing any delays on the main flow of the freeway. Visit Maurice Abravanel Hall for the Utah Symphony's Pops series. Visit utahsymphony.org/pops. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
High of 93 today with the chance of thunderstorms this afternoon, about the same Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we cool down into the 70s Thursday and Friday. Right now, 90 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The headline today is the celebration of the 100th birthday of a world religious leader, Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But underneath that headline is a life and a host of tales of surprising friendships, of humble leadership, along with principles that are worth celebrating and emulating. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it is a fabulous day when we get to have Teresa Deer in the neighborhood and in the studio today. We like to call her Reverend Teresa Deer. She's an ordained minister for the AME Church. She's a national board member for the NAACP, a contributor for Deseret.com, and I just like to call her Czar of the Universe. She is Miss Make It Happen. And Reverend Deer, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here, Boyd. Thank you.
It's a special day. You have had a unique journey and fostered a very unique friendship with President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who's celebrating his 100th birthday, and
Yes.
You got one of those golden tickets. You get to be part of that extraordinary birthday celebration today.
It is such an honor. I mean, I'm like seeing history in the making. And so this is a wonderful opportunity. I feel honored and so very blessed to be here and to witness this milestone and this celebration.
Yeah. We always say that the day the journey begins is not the day the journey begins.
That's right, right.
And you were part of the very early part of this story, this unique relationship between the Church of Jesus Christ and the NAACP, and in particular around self-reliance. Take us back to some of those early conversations and connections.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have a saying that sometimes you need to make friends before you need friends. And I say that in the context of, I see President Nelson as like an extraordinary visionary. And for him to have the foresight for the NAACP and the church to come together, I think it was like 7 years ago. Who knew that the George Floyd thing would happen? And that was a way that two friends, we don't agree on everything, but what we do agree on is faith and justice. And so our voices were able to just, complement one another. But it started 7 years ago, and we said, let's come together. And it was a wonderful, joyous, hospitable experience. Meeting President Nelson was and still is one of the greatest honors of my lifetime. And, I've had the great fortune to have met presidents of the United States, President Obama, President Biden, other politicians, leaders, scholars, etc. But I've never met anyone like President Nelson. I mean, in all that he has accomplished, right? All that he has accomplished and all that he has done around the world, he has made himself accessible to me. I've had breakfast with him a couple of times. I've had lunch with him at least one time. And we have talked about global as well as local and, societal issues over lunch, over a meal. And I see him as an icon shrouded in humility. He's just an extraordinary human being. And, my life has been better, sweeter, greater, and kinder as a result of meeting him and our paths crossing. So.
I remember the first time that you and I met
Yes.
at the NAACP conference in Detroit.
Right.
Where President Nelson was the keynote
Yes.
speaker there.
Another history-making moment.
Yeah, tell us just a little bit about that, because I think for a lot of our listeners, again, it was a few years ago, but it really was a historic moment.
Absolutely. So there was a sense of who is this, Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Church. And, there were some among us, the NAACP, who weren't really that familiar, with the institution. But, we did our due diligence and made sure everyone knew who the church is. And then upon learning that the head of the church was coming, we were like, oh, my. And so the chemistry between Chairman Leon Russell and President Russell and President Derek Johnson, it was palpable. I mean, it was clear that they had a chemistry. And then you enter Reverend Amos Brown into the picture from California. And he is an icon in the African American community and the African American church. He's in the African American Smithsonian Institute. And then, I joined the group. And it has been an amazing friendship, partnership, and collaboration and leadership. So it was a moment of history, and he could have spoken and we could have parted company. Many people have come before the convention and they did greetings, they were keynote speakers, and we said thank you, or they said thank you, and we didn't continue the work. And sometimes it was simply because they went about doing their work. But this relationship between the NAACP and the church has been one that has been collaborative. It has, without question, been one that has been impactful. It's been strategic because the reliance work that we did was work to help others appreciate, and this was a few years ago when we started, how to appreciate their impact as it relates to being empowered with skills and instruments and a toolkit to find and secure employment, improve credit, etc. I mean, it's been a wonderful relationship.
Yeah, it has been absolutely transformational. And I think it was because it wasn't an event. It wasn't just showing up and doing something, or sometimes people make a donation or they give a speech,
Right.
and that's kind of the target. But there's that punch through of the relationship.
That's right.
And we saw so many times, and we've seen so many times. We've seen you linking and locking arms with President Nelson, as he loves to do. Reverend Brown from the historic Third Baptist Church of San Francisco. I still think he will forever hold the record as the best introduction in President Nelson's 100 years, when he stood up there in front of those thousands and thousands of people at the NAACP in Detroit and saying, let me introduce my brother from another mother.
That's right. That's right.
And their embrace was the beginning of something magical. And the leadership component you also mentioned, those same leaders that you mentioned came together, wrote a joint op-ed.
That's right.
Really calling on the world and calling on the nation in particular to let's tear down those walls of segregation. Let's get rid of those wedges that divide us and build bridges of understanding.
And if we can do it, guess who else can do it? Anyone else, because we have been opposite in so many ways, and here are 2-3 leaders, President Nelson, Chairman Leon Russell, and President Derek Johnson, all coming together to talk about how we can make our community, our country, and our world better. And we continue to have these collaborations and these conversations because this is a partnership and it's a journey. To make a difference.
Absolute journey for sure. Well, as you look at that and as you reflect on President Nelson's life, these 100 years, and your unique association with him, we always say, he has a list of accomplishments that's 27 miles long. But I always say that people should not be introduced by their resumes. but by their principles.
Yes.
That really brought about all those other things. Those are kind of downstream issues. So as you've interacted with President Nelson, what are some of the principles that you've seen? You mentioned humility as one.
Yes.
What are some of the other principles that you see as the animating power behind a most extraordinary life?
Great question. The way that I would talk about this is really through his book, which is The Heart of the Matter. That's the title. In addition to, his humility, his leadership, his vision, his perseverance, his tenacity, and his resilience, because he encountered, he without question was a pioneer in a lot of things. But there was some setbacks along the way. And he rebounded from that and still had a story to tell. And so there's this one chapter in his book that's called, and I'm paraphrasing here, something to the effect of you can do anything with God. And, he talked about when I hope I'm explaining this correctly, when he was assigned from the Quorum of the 12 to build churches and capacity in Europe and Africa. And he was thinking, do you really mean me? But yet he went and did it. And so just the boldness of his thinking, the things that he has accomplished in his lifetime that others may not have even thought of, like the NAACP coming together. I mean, that requires bold vision. That requires deep faith in God. That requires the capacity to personally shrink while you uplift and magnify others. And when you think about our common work together, in the community, in the country, in the world, it requires that we humble ourselves while we lift up humanity. And one of the lessons that I have learned, one of the consistent principles that I've seen from President Nelson is the heart of a humanitarian. He is a leader who puts humanity first. And that has had a profound impact and impression on me.
Fantastic insight. It is always good to have you in the studio. And in the Beehive State, we need to have you here more often. Reverend Teresa Deer, board member of the NAACP, contributor to Deseret.com, ordained minister for the AME Church, and one of the most extraordinary humans that I know, someone that I look to for great insight.
Thank you.
And we're glad to have you here to celebrate President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
So many important principles from that discussion, and as we often do on this program, and especially on President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday, we're going to stay with the question, and we're going to stay with the conversation just a little bit longer. We'll get into some of Reverend Deer's experience and an interesting and fascinating approach to how do we restore hope in the world. The answer coming up next. Stick around.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. This week, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris lay out two different futures.
Expand the tax deduction for startups.
Defeat inflation and reignite explosive economic growth.
Get special coverage all day Monday and Tuesday so you can make your choice. Your voice, your vote 2024. This week on KSL News Radio.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite news podcast? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Yeah, stay up to date on everything newsworthy with podcasts like The Daily, Up First, and 5 Things, uninterrupted at Amazon.com/ad-free. Just head to Amazon.com/ad-free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get one line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
The Utah RV Super Show, the premier RV event of the year, is back at the Mountain America Expo Center, Thursday, September 12th through Sunday, September 15th. Come see new 2025 models and special closeout pricing on all 2024 models. Bring a can of food for the Utah Food Bank and get $1 off per can, up to half off adult admission. Unplug from distractions and plug in to your family at the Utah RV Super Show. Discount passes at UtahRVSupershow.com.
Higher taxes, soaring inflation, record low interest rates, and the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. The list goes on. Retiring successfully today is a lot more complicated than ever before. Learn how you can tackle the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement today. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio. It's this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL, News Radio 1027.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a special broadcast planned this afternoon in honor of President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday. Second, the Libertarian candidate for governor will be included in the debate with the Democratic and Republican candidates this week. And third, construction will close the highway through Ogden Canyon tonight and Wednesday night. Right now, 90 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
We're staying with the question and the conversation with Reverend Teresa Deer, good friend, extraordinary member of the NAACP National Board, ordained minister in the AME Church, a contributor to Deseret.com, and someone who's just out there making a difference in community and convening important conversations all over the country. And Reverend Deer, I want to kind of broaden our conversation. We've been talking about the great celebration you're here for in the state with President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday today. But I want to extend our conversation because you have your ear to the ground and finger on the pulse of so many things going on in community around this country. I know there's a lot of stuff going on around the political debates and polarization in the country. But I want to get to what are the conversations we ought to be having in community today?
Yeah, so our community is changing. We are quickly browning in this country. And I think that there's a lot of things we ought to be talking about. One is the browning of the country and what that means to us. That means that, our neighbors and our neighborhood is changing. And how do we respond to that? How do we become a better neighbor to our neighbors and to our incoming neighbors? How, do we acquaint ourselves with their traditions, their norms, their history, their journey, etc., so that they feel welcome and we feel comfortable in the interaction? So I think that's a conversation that we need to have. Not to get too political, but if this country experiences a female president, what is that going to look like in the country? Because we have not seen that model. Right. And while there is lots of energy and enthusiasm and excitement about the possibility, what does that mean, to other women, to men, et cetera, to those kind of traditions who aren't used to having women in leadership? Yeah. And what will she bring, if indeed this comes to pass? Perhaps greater empathy around things like those who are unhoused, et cetera. So I think this is an extraordinary opportunity in this country, certainly for the possibility of a different model in the presidency. but more importantly, how our country is changing.
Yeah.
We have different languages, different religions, etc. And rather than be upset and angry and resistant to that, this is an opportunity for us to, extend our ear, our heart, and our faith, and welcome and embrace people, more people.
I love that. We have a saying on the show that on a regular basis, you ought to be sitting down with someone who looks different, thinks different, lives different, worships different than you do, and that changes the game. We were having a conversation over the weekend. You and I and Debbie got to have a nice lunch together, and we were talking about the difference between the optimist and the pessimist.
Yes.
That they're both, none of those are rational. The optimist is not rational. The pessimist is not rational. But then getting to this idea of hope, that hope is a virtue that can be fostered and developed. How do we get to that conversation as opposed to the extremes, the loud voices, the angry voices, the kind of populism unhinged from principle? How do we get to hope?
I think we get to hope a number of ways. First of all, I think when we engage with the hopeless, hope is sort of becomes more buoyant. Hope is bolstered because, how else to be a usher of hope and practice a message of hope unless you're talking to the hopeless. And, Jesus said, that which you do unto the least of these is that which you do unto me. The Bible talks about, this great conversation when the disciples were like, Jesus, when was I homeless? Or when were you homeless? When were, you without food, etc.? And so there is a call for us to come out of our complacency and go to the community where there is hopelessness. And what we find today is sometimes hopelessness exists in anonymity behind a screen. Yeah, where we have folks that are lashing out and folks are in a place of being offensive. Why is that? Perhaps it is because they have been offended or they have lost hope. And how do we reach them? And so I think it's incumbent upon us who believe in a hopeful tomorrow, those that believe in Jesus Christ, to A, talk about Jesus Christ, and B, to talk about hope. The Bible tells us again that, hope is this magnificent thing that we all, have within our grasp, within our reach. It is available to all of us. And so to those people who feel that hopelessness and anger and withdrawing is the answer, there's another answer. There's a better answer, and that answer is hope. And it is, again, coming out of a place of comfort and complacency and moving physically into the community. That's what Jesus did in his itinerary.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. If we want to have hope in the future, we have to be the hope.
That's exactly right. We have to embody it. We have to personify it. We have to be emblematic of what it looks like.
Yeah. That's why we have it. You should write a book about that. It is always a treat to have Reverend Teresa Deer with us. Again, board member from the NAACP, ordained minister for the AME Church, contributor to Deseret.com, and an extraordinary human out there making a difference.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing with us today.
Of course. My pleasure.
Great conversation with Reverend Teresa Deer, and so many important principles in there. And I love this whole idea. She has totally changed my thinking today in terms of hope. We talk about it. We talk about the need for it. We want to get it in our communities, in our families, in our personal lives. And when I asked her, where do we start? It's spending time with those who have lost hope, to the hopeless. That is a think again moment about hope. And so many important things that we can all begin to do, that the answers to many of the things that ail the country and our communities are not going to be found in the halls of Congress. They're not going to be coming down in some big piece of legislation that's going to be negotiated on the floor of the House and the Senate. It's going to be what happens at your house, what happens at my house, what happens in your neighborhood and my neighborhood, and how willing each of us are to go to places that are hopeless, to go into places where we may not even be welcome, but be willing to sit down and learn and listen and be radically curious and show radical compassion. That's where all of this begins. So all of this on a day when a world religious leader, President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who has spent 100 years doing just that, holding the hearts of many as a surgeon, holding the hearts of many as he helps them find hope in the future. And that's something worth really celebrating today. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next right here on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are having their own parties today to commemorate the President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday. Jenny Curtis is holding an all-day event at her home in South Jordan.
For his birthday, that he thought it would be really wonderful if people would be able to reach out to someone in their lives that might need a friend or someone that they're thinking about.
Curtis' goal is for friends and family to make 1,000 cards today to give to others who are in need of a nice message. Ogden Canyon will be closed tonight and Wednesday night for construction. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has details on how to get around that.
The Ogden City government is advising drivers to use I-84 in Weber Canyon to SR 167, known as Trapper's Loop, to and from the Pineview Reservoir area. Ogden Canyon will be shut down tonight from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. tomorrow, and again on Wednesday night during the same time frame.
And Ogden City leaders posted on Facebook asking for patience during the construction. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A new tropical storm, this one named Francine, is churning out in the Gulf of Mexico. This could strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane before it hits Texas or Louisiana midweek, expected to bring more heavy rain to the Gulf Coast. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 454 points. The NASDAQ is up 148. And our KSL weather. We've got sunny skies, but there is a chance for a storm, especially south of Salt Lake. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon Here's Ricky Meese.
We're looking at a nice and quiet drive on the Valley freeways, including I-15 north and southbound from Willard Bay all the way to Utah Lake. However, if you're going to be traveling Highway 6 going from Spanish Fork Canyon and Soldier Summit into Carbon County, there is construction by Castlegate causing delays both directions of Highway 6. Visit Maurice Abravanel Hall for the Utah Symphony's Pops series. Visit utahsymphony.org/pops. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
I have 93 today with a chance of thunderstorms this afternoon, about the same Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we cool down into the 70s Thursday and Friday. And right now we're at 91 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomitz from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, Congress has returned to our nation's capital, and there are a number of things that they actually need to get done. As we often quote on this program, September the 30th always comes. Every single year in the history of history, September 30th has always come, and it will come once again. And once again, we'll be faced with a showdown, this time in the midst of a very contentious national election. And so we want to get into what are all the stakes, what are all the things that are being done and navigated as we march our way towards that deadline. Again, that's the day they have to fund the government or there would be a shutdown. I don't think that's likely to happen in an election year, but I want to look under the hood a little bit in terms of what's in there, what's being debated, what are the big arguments and disagreements, and what's likely to happen between now and September the 30th. To help us do all of that, we turn once again to Jacob Bogage, Congressional Economics Correspondent for the Washington Post. A fantastic piece in the Post today talking about the things that Congress has to deal with as we get towards those deadlines. And Jacob, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's always great to be with you.
So let's dive into this, and let's just kind of start with the practical, tactical stuff. Obviously, your reporting confirms what we always believe, and that is September the 30th will come this year, in fact, and there are some things to be done. But what are the things under the hood? We know Speaker Johnson has some things that he's planning to put forward. What's in that? What's likely to survive?
Yeah, I flipped my calendar over to September and went, oh, there it is. It is coming. Mike Johnson's plan right now is a 6-month continuing resolution, which basically says fund the government at the exact same level for the next 6 months as you're doing right now. And then he wants to attach something called the SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship to vote in national elections. Of course, citizenship is already required to vote in national elections, and non-citizen voting isn't really something that happens at all. And so this is an opening gambit. This is to shore up his right flank and also to give himself some negotiation position and room to maneuver with Senate Democrats. The issue is he doesn't really have a lot of leverage right now, as has happened with every kind of showdown we've been through since Mike Johnson has taken the speaker's gavel. The issue hasn't been getting Democrats on board. It's been uniting Republicans.
Yeah.
And he's going to face the same issue here.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. You also included in your piece, I thought, some things that are, again, underneath the headlines, but are really important. You talked about the Department of Veterans Affairs, some pieces of the Farm Bill, and some of those other things that need to be done or need to be fixed somehow before we get to those deadlines. Kind of dive into those a little bit for us.
Yeah, these are really important. And so the Farm Bill, really crucial pieces of that. I mean, the most important pieces of that expired December 31st. So you've got a little bit of time there. There's other really important pieces that expire September 30th. That needs to get re-upped. The Farm Bill is usually this giant 5-year bill.
Right.
And we've already kicked the can down the road on that once. We're already in an extension. A lot of the policy in the Farm Bill, because we've kind of kicked the can down the road so many times, isn't based on 2017. It's based on 2014 economic conditions. I mean, we are really overdue for something. So bill extension, really should do a full farm bill, but we're not going to do that in this time frame.
Yeah.
Two is the Department of Veterans Affairs needs $15 billion. And that's because Congress passed what's called the PACT Act, which provides larger and more robust, and in some cases just new benefits to this newest generation of combat veterans that served in Iraq and Afghanistan and had exposure to toxic burn pits. They need a lot of resources, the Department of Veterans Affairs does, and Congress needs to fund it. If you're going to do a 6-month CR, you need to plus up that funding for the department in kind of a technical way. That has not been included in Speaker Johnson's opening proposition. But again, there's not a lot of time between now and September 30th, but in Congress, it is a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot can happen.
That's right. And everything comes down to those final few days and hours. And I always tell people, just put the panic button away. Something will happen. I wanted to get your take because you follow this closely, Jacob, as you look at all the economics as it relates to Congress. And that is doing this as a 6-month CR is interesting. We've sort of been doing these really short ones. Some were thinking maybe they would just kick the can to the lame duck session in December. Now we're going all the way to March. And so whether it is a Harris-Walz administration or whether it is a Trump administration part 2 going in, this is an interesting frame to kick it to. How do you see that playing out, and any advantages, disadvantages for whoever the new administration is?
I think either new administration would be incredibly disadvantaged. And there's going to be, in all likelihood, some sort of divided government. And so I think that disadvantage might be a little bit more evenly spread. This is a case, there's an expression in Washington, the Democrats are the opposition, the Senate is the enemy, or the Republicans are the opposition, the House is the enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, because the House can say, let's do a 6-month CR and, let's do it in March. Look at all the stuff we can get done in March if we, increase our Republican majority in the House. Okay, try telling that to a White House that has to get its cabinet secretaries confirmed.
Right.
That has to get its ambassadors confirmed. That has to, there's so much that has to get done that, I was talking with sources from the Senate this weekend, and they were going, what on earth is he thinking? Does he not know there are 2 houses of Congress? And so I think it disadvantages both. I also think, if you're the Trump administration, one of the first things you want to get done is a big new tax bill or something on immigration policy or whatever that might be. Do you really want to chew up all your political capital doing a 1-year spending bill?
Right. Yeah.
If you're the Harris administration, you want to do this big new tax bill, you want to do stuff on the care economy. Do you want to chew up all of your political capital on a 1-year spending bill? And so that's why I think it disadvantages both campaigns or both would-be administrations pretty evenly.
Oh, that is fantastic insight. And you think about that in terms of what has to be done early in administration. You talk about all those cabinet positions and ambassadorships and so on. That is a big chunk of time just in and of itself where the Senate will be consumed with all of that, and that really changes the dynamic for both sides. Fantastic perspective. Jacob Bogage, Congressional Economics Correspondent for The Washington Post. You can check out his piece at thewashingtonpost.com. Jacob, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you.
All right, that's Jacob Bogage joining us from The Washington Post today, and that's a really important thing. So not getting a lot of coverage, and you won't hear a lot about this. And so I really appreciate Jacob raising this of, look, if they do a continuing resolution, in other words, if they avoid the shutdown showdown on September 30th and they kick the can down the road, currently they're trying to kick the can towards the end of March. Now, the new administration, of course, will begin operation on January the 20th. And then they've got to get the cabinet confirmed. They've got to get ambassadors confirmed. There's a host of other positions that have to go through the United States Senate before they can begin to do the work of the new administration. And Jacob rightly pointed out that whether it's a Harris administration or a Trump administration, that hamstrings the administration from really doing anything. in terms of an agenda or trying to move the country in a direction. And as he also mentioned, this will likely be divided government once again. And so things getting done is going to continue to be complicated. And I'm okay with that part of the program. It seems that the American people like this divided government. But sadly, the divided government ends up giving both parties a lot of excuses for not doing what they say they're going to do, or to make promises that are so outlandish because they can, knowing that they can just say, well, that's what I wanted to do, but we had divided government, and so I couldn't. And so our divided government is actually giving politicians on both sides of the political aisle cover to make crazy, wild promises, populist promises that have not a snowball's chance in Guam of ever becoming law or being implemented, because they can just shrug their shoulders and say, if only we didn't have divided government. So we got to change the conversation there. When it comes to funding the government, it's one of the very few things that Congress has to do every year. September 30th, it will come. It does come. And let's get the job done just for once, just to see what would happen if we did it. We'll be right back.
This week, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris lay out two different futures.
Expand the tax deduction for startups.
Defeat inflation and reignite explosive economic growth.
Get special coverage all day Monday and Tuesday so you can make your choice. Your voice, your vote 2024. This week on KSL News Radio.
Our friends at Hercules Credit Union are always about growing stronger together. They've been doing this since 1946, and right now they're inviting you to be part of the story and part of the community, not a transaction at some big bank. Be part of the solution that happens locally. Hercules First Federal Credit Union, right now you can get a gold tier checking account, which is free checking, by the way. They also have a 4.25% promotional interest rate on the balances in your checking account. That's checking, not savings. You can also earn points for every time you use your debit card. Your points can be redeemed for cashback, travel, gift cards, and free credit monitoring, so much more. All at Hercules Credit Union. You can find their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, or Riverton. Or, as always, you can find our friends at Hercules Credit Union online at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes. But you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988lifeline.org.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a serious heart condition. Some symptoms include being short of breath, feeling tired, or having dizziness or chest pain. My HCM impacted how I felt and what I could do. So I asked my cardiologist about treatment advances that gave me new options. That conversation was big for me. That's why I'm working with Bristol Myers Squibb to raise awareness about HCM and to help others like me. Talk to your cardiologist today and visit hcmrealtalk.com to learn more.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb.
Protect your little ones while transforming your home. The Blind Man's Go Cordless for Kids sale is on now. Buy 4, get 1 free on all child-safe window coverings, including the popular motorized options. Imagine beautiful cordless blinds and shades that elevate your decor without compromising safety. Their diverse collection of colors, fabrics, and cordless solutions ensures there's a perfect match for every style. Experience personalized service as the Blind Man's consultants guide you in selecting the ideal options for your home. Don't wait. This is your chance to create a safer, more stylish home with the Blind Man's Buy 4, Get 1 free savings event on all child-safe window coverings and motorization. Hurry, the sale ends October 31st. Visit theblindman.com today to set up a free in-home consultation. Theblindman.com.
From Ogden to St. George, Utah's premier window covering provider, The Blind Man.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. and you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the big differences, I think, between reading a story online and hearing it from us, Tim, is that, you and I are allowed to share a reaction. We need to be able to say, what in the world were they thinking? So that people listening will know. We feel it too. When we read a story that sounds ridiculous, we're right with you. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, we get caught up, I'm sure just like our listeners do sometimes, in death scrolling on social media. And fact-checking it on your own is tough. The great thing about tuning in every morning and starting your morning with us on KSL is you can count on the fact that when that information comes out of the radio in your direction, it comes from reliable sources.
It's already been fact-checked.
Right. And that's not always easy when you're getting it online. Finding who wrote it, when was it written, has it been updated with the current facts of the day that change sometimes minute to minute, not just day to day.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a woman in South Jordan threw a birthday party today for a 100-year-old. That's President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Second, drivers will have to find an alternate route to Pineview Reservoir while the highway is under construction. And third, there's another tropical storm brewing in the Gulf of Mexico. 91 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Of course, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will be facing off tomorrow, and there'll be a host of different policy issues that will come to the fore. Hopefully they'll get to good policy moving forward. One of the interesting ones that we've been keeping our eye on that is really beyond the headlines for a lot, and that is dealing with trade and how each candidate is proposing. It's been very interesting over the course of the Trump and the Biden administration how similar they were getting on a lot of the tariff kinds of conversations that they were having. An interesting article today by Ari Hawkins, a reporter at Politico, talked about the fact that former President Trump is actually the more pro-trade candidate in the presidential race at this point. And it's interesting that while Trump derailed decades of free trade kind of principles and policies and orthodoxy as it relates to tariffs and other kinds of things related to the economy, the interesting thing to me was how the Trump administration used those moves, again, using tariffs specifically, trade issues. He leveraged those kinds of moves to strike deals with foreign governments. So, as an example, NAFTA was transformed and turned into the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. He also worked in the administration to reshape pacts and agreements with Japan and South Korea, even a few things with China that lasted for a little while, not super long. But those are the kinds of things that will be interesting. For her part, the vice president, Kamala Harris, has pretty much stuck to the line in terms of the Biden administration policies. And so as we move into the debate tomorrow, it will be very interesting. Now, a lot of international leaders have become accustomed a little bit to the Trump administration and kind of the deal approach to it. Very transactional, often creating new kinds of things as opposed to kind of the status quo of how we've always done things when it comes to trade and tariffs. So tomorrow will be telling if they get to this portion of the program. It will be interesting to see how Vice President Harris positions her view. She hasn't spoken a lot about trade, not a lot about tariffs or what that means or what her policy would look like. And that will be an area where I think there will be some distinction between the former president and the current vice president. And we'll see if they get to that kind of policy discussion when they meet tomorrow evening. Now, that wraps it up for hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. But don't go anywhere. We're going to kick off hour number 2 with some think again moments about what you think you know about presidential debates, why they matter, why they don't, and what just might happen tomorrow that could be different. Stick around. Hour number 2 of Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour, President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints celebrating his 100th birthday today. He's faced the challenges of advancing age with patience and humor, as in this address to an international devotional for young people.
Some might label me as an old man. But I'm a lot younger than Adam.
The biblical account says Adam lived to be 930 years old. A special broadcast planned at 4 o'clock this afternoon to mark President Nelson's birthday, and you can hear that on the KSLX stream at kslnewsradio.com. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Disgraced media mogul Harvey Weinstein was rushed to a hospital in New York City from jail today.
Harvey Weinstein, who's been jailed in New York City's Rikers Island detention facility, had to be rushed to Bellevue Hospital for emergency heart surgery. Sources tell ABC News he was experiencing chest pains. The emergency comes as Weinstein is due in court this week in New York, where prosecutors have been working to secure a new indictment against him on sex crimes charges. Weinstein's current conviction is for rape with a 23-year sentence, but he's facing a retrial in November after a New York appeals court ruled he did not get a fair trial. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 484 points. The NASDAQ up 193 as we approach the close of trading. And our KSL weather looks like sunshine today, but there is a chance for a thunderstorm. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
Are you frustrated because you've been exercising and eating healthy, but you still can't lose weight? We know the secret to losing weight and getting healthy the natural way without drugs or injections. At SaltLakeCityFatLoss.com, many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two without prepackaged meals. No exercising, no hormones, no injections, drugs, or surgery. Go to SaltLakeCityFatLoss.com now.
I lost 57 pounds in 60 days. I'm Dave Noriega. The results I saw on Salt Lake City Fat Loss were so incredible, so amazing, it helped keep me motivated to stay on the plan with no cheat days. Check out slcfatloss.com.
To learn about our program, go to saltlakecityfatloss.com and schedule your free private phone consultation. Our staff will walk you through our entire program, talk about your health goals, and see if it's a good fit for you. Call 801-450-1882 or go to saltlakecityfatloss.com to schedule your free phone consultation now. That's saltlakecityfatloss.com. Results may vary.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We had a stalled vehicle southbound I-15 approaching the point of the mountain. It has since cleared. There's still some leftover busy traffic in the area and debris in the road. This is westbound I-80 near Lambs Canyon in the right lane. The Utah RV Super Show is back September 12th through 15th at Mountain America Expo Center. Unplug from distractions and plug into your family at the Utah RV Super Show. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see a high of 93 today. There is a chance of thunderstorms, especially south of the Salt Lake area. About the same Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we cool down into the 70s Thursday and Friday. And right now, 91 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The headlines, of course, are the debates about the debate that will actually happen tomorrow as the two presidential candidates take to the stage and face each other for the first time. Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump will take to the stage. And a lot of the headlines today are what the candidates are doing to prepare, to be ready, and what they'll actually do on stage tomorrow night on the ABC presidential debate. We're going to go beyond the headlines today, and I want you to take a look at some interesting things, maybe to think again about what we think we know when it comes to presidential debates. We're going to talk about focus, matador defense, chameleons, and what it takes to actually win a debate that will make a difference. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, as everything focuses towards the 7 p.m. local time debate that will be on ABC, of course, we'll cover that also here on KSL News Radio. And the moderators for the debate, always an interesting thing. World News Tonight anchor David Muir and Prime anchor Lindsay Davis will be the moderators for the 90 minutes. And the process, I think, in terms of how the preparation has been going, and more importantly, what the content will be, is going to be very interesting. Now, I introduced a concept last week in terms of who's this debate really for anyway? And the debate, because both of these candidates have interesting characteristics. This is the high floor, low ceiling election. You have two candidates that have pretty high floors. In other words, they have very solid, very grounded base of support that is not moving anywhere, regardless of what happens on the debate stage. Vice President Harris has a very solid lock on the Democratic left. And those folks are not going anywhere come Election Day. And the same thing holds true in terms of the base, the floor of the Republican Party that is not going anywhere other than former President Donald Trump. The interesting thing, the think again moment for these two candidates is that neither one of them are very popular. They have low ceilings. It would be surprising if either of them cracked 50%. When it comes to Election Day. So no one's going to be able to say they have some sort of mandate from the country. It's going to be very close. And so when you have high floors and low ceilings, that means you have a very small space in between. And the small space in between is exactly who these two candidates have to talk to on the debate stage tomorrow night. I always say that when it comes to debates, focus precedes success. You have to go in focused on what is the most important thing for you to do on that debate stage on that night. Because you can get distracted with shiny objects. You can get distracted by put-downs. You can get distracted by moderators that do or don't do a good job. There's a host of things that can create distraction. And so focus. So the focus for former President Trump, he's got to be focused on restraint. He needs to avoid going down the path that is all about pejoratives, that is all about put downs, is all about angry back and forth. If we have a discussion tomorrow night about their golf games, to me, that will be the end of debates as we know them. It'll be all over. So he's got to stay focused in terms of policy, and then he'll have a couple of strategies that he'll want to deploy. Now, Vice President Harris, she's got to be focused on introducing her real policy objectives. So she's got to be specific. She's gotten a few generalities out there, and they seem to be working so far. I will credit the Harris campaign. They rode the momentum as far as they could. It appears the momentum has flattened, and so the race is right where it was when it was still a Trump-Biden contest. And so that part's all gone now. All the feel-goods are over, and now they got to get to the serious part of policy. And what that means for that small window between the high floors and low ceilings where this election will be decided. So how do they go about that? I think for former President Trump, he is going to focus on an interesting element. If he does want to come up with a new nickname for the vice president, I think what you're going to hear tomorrow will be Kamala Chameleon. There may even be a song that goes with that. He is going to try to paint Vice President Harris as a chameleon who will just say what she thinks the people listening to her at the moment want to hear. And so he will challenge her on her previous statements about banning fracking, about Medicare for all, about plastic straws, about different kinds of mandates for health care, and her sudden switch in terms of cracking down at the border in terms of immigration. Now, those are all fair things to do. But that will be the case that the former president is going to try to make against Vice President Harris, that she is a chameleon, that she is Kamala the chameleon. And I think that's going to be the line that the former president's going to go at. For her part, I think the strategy for Vice President Harris, one, be very specific in terms of the policy and where the vision of where you want to go. Don't spend time going back to January 6th. Don't spend time on all of the riffraff stuff around the edges. She doesn't need that because, again, who's she talking to? The people in the middle space between the high floor and the low ceiling. So if I were advising the Harris campaign, I think one of the things that she should do, and one of the things I think she will do, I'm pretty confident of this, she's going to play Matador. It is going to be Matador night for Kamala Harris. And she is going to put things in front of the former president that he will have a hard time resisting, that he will not be restrained, as he was in the first debate with Joe Biden, but that he will start swinging wildly because he hasn't figured out how to engage Vice President Harris. He still hasn't. More than a month since everything started to change and she became the presumptive nominee, the Trump campaign has been ill-suited and ill-prepared and apparently unable to change the strategy and have a different kind of conversation. And so I think Vice President Harris will play some Matador. She'll put some shiny red things right in front of the former president to get his ire up, to get him to lash out, to get him to react or to rant about something or to get off topic and be rambling. Because if she does that, she wins the night. Because that's all she has to do. Now, both these candidates, if you're talking to their campaign staff, they're going to be talking about the first law and the first rule of debates, and that is do no harm. Don't do anything that is going to undermine your potential victory. So for Vice President Harris, she's got to avoid the gaffe or the big word salad response. Former President Trump, again, restraint's going to be the order of the day. Can he focus or can he not? And I'll remind you of a principle that I often come back to when it comes to campaigns at this level. And that is that these kinds of campaigns are rarely won because you're that good. These kinds of campaigns usually get lost by the campaign that cannot manage their weaknesses. The same thing's true in life, by the way. Most people fail not because they don't have the right abilities or talent. They fail because their weaknesses become the dominant force in their behavior. A debate stage often emphasizes or exposes your weaknesses. And if you can't manage those well, you'll lose the election. It won't be that your opponent won it. It will be you lost it because you can't manage your weaknesses. Now, I also hope that both sides tomorrow will actually take some time to talk about their vision of the country. I hope they spend no time at all talking about each other. Let the moderators do their moderating job and focus on your vision, because I think for those important voters, remember who this debate is for. It's not about the base of the Republican Party or the base of the Democratic Party, the floor. Those people are already all in. They're not going anywhere. And both of these candidates don't have a big gap in terms of their favorability to have a high ceiling. So it's that very small, movable middle that is going to decide all of this. So that's where the conversation has to go. And whichever candidate takes the public there with a vision of where they want to take the nation and what their policies will do for their kitchen table and their community will not only win the debate night, but will get a bump and gain some extra momentum with 57 days to go before the first Tuesday of November. We're going to stay with the conversation on the debate stage. Much coming up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Pumpkin spice, anyone? Autumn can mean tasty lattes, sure, but also BYU football, colder weather, and how about a little presidential election?
Rock the vote!
For all the spice you need this fall. Start with Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. Then David Dejanovic, Boyd Matheson, and Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News as you drive home. Coming this fall on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. Over the years, I've talked a lot about hard water takes years off the life of water heaters and other appliances in your home. Leaves scum on the shower walls, and you almost need a jackhammer to remove that. I've talked about how Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer, their water softeners are maintenance-free. You just don't need adjustment, and they do the job with 2/3 less salt than other softeners. But today, I want to talk about the exhilarating feeling of stepping into a hot bath or shower and feeling that pure, soft water cascade over your skin. It feels like every pore in your body wants to stand up and start singing. And afterward, there are no itchy hard water deposits sticking all over you. You really should look into a soft water system from Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. You can learn more about Connecticut by giving them a call at 801-576-8600 or log on to Softwater Utah. Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. Then sit back and enjoy your shower even more.
This is the day of the big sale at your gift shop.
Welcome in.
So this isn't just a big day for your business. It's a big day for the network keeping it all connected. That is, if it can handle the pressure.
Next in line, please.
So is it possible to get business internet you can really count on? It is. With 99.9% network reliability from Comcast Business. It's like this neat little bow.
Would you like that gift wrap?
Really ties it all together. Reliable internet for your business. It's not just possible, it's happening. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Switch to Comcast Business and get started with reliable internet and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online to switch today. Offer ends 9/22/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 150 megabit per second internet. Eagle bill and auto pay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we don't say 2 birds with 1 stone. We say 2 damages with 1 deductible. With us, if your home and auto are both damaged in 1 storm, you only pay 1 deductible. And we should probably stop using stones for that sort of thing anyway. Talk to a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent about our 1 deductible advantage at fbfs.com/protect. It's your future. Let's protect it. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, debunking 3 myths about fiduciaries. And you're going to be surprised about myth number 3. Myth number 1, Fiduciaries are too expensive. Not at Trajan Wealth. Our interests are aligned with yours, so we don't need to push costly investments. The more you make, the more we make. It's that simple. Myth number 2, they will only want to sell me something. Absolutely not. At Trajan Wealth, we have hearts of teachers, and it's our goal to educate and empower, not sell. And the biggest myth, myth number 3, fiduciaries are only for the wealthy. Not at Trajan Wealth. Whether you have 50 grand or 50 million, we know it was hard-earned and we'll treat it as such. Let's grow together. So, here's your opportunity for 100% complimentary professional Q&A. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
On September 12th, 1995, 12-year-old McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas. It was a crime that shocked the community because the suspect was so unlikely, so unexpected.
Former high-ranking police official. He'd run for sheriff at one point.
Law enforcement personnel were pretty much split down the middle over whether or not he actually did this.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, still feels that justice was never truly served.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has faced advancing age with patience and humor. He turns 100 years old today. Second, there's an arrest warrant out now for the man suspected of shooting at dozens of vehicles along I-75 in Kentucky. And third, a state legislator says school lunch ought to be free for kids getting reduced price lunches now. 91 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. We're staying with the conversation just a little bit longer as it relates to the debate coming up tomorrow. Often we say that debates are not super important. They have historically not been a big game changer. But, of course, the game changed this year. I think things are looking a little bit different than they are in times past, which raises the stakes and the pressure on both of these candidates. So we want to stay with the conversation a little bit longer, and really thrilled to have joining us on the program Kelly Meyer, Washington correspondent in News Nation's Washington, D.C. bureau. Always fantastic insight with our friends on News Nation. And Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually rolling right now towards Uber and on our way to Philadelphia, so I will be there covering the debate tomorrow night. So we're very looking forward to it and how it goes.
Literally on the road to Philadelphia. There's a story and there's a chapter of a book in there, to be sure. And so as we march our way to Philadelphia, we always talk about Philadelphia as the vision part. Boston Tea Party was what you're against. Philadelphia was the Constitution and what you're for. As you look at these two candidates, in terms of what they're for, what do you see as the messages that each candidate has to get to in Philadelphia tomorrow?
Well, it seems like if all goes to plan for Trump's campaign, they want to focus on trying to, as they're calling it, hold Harris accountable for what they see as the failures of the Biden-Harris administration. So his advisors are hoping that he'll outline the economy, the border, things like that. For Harris, this is her chance to reintroduce herself from vice president to potential president, to highlight, as they call it, the stark differences, they say, between her and Trump, and to potentially get under Trump's skin, which she has been trying to do with this new ad that she put out today that includes former Trump officials that are basically saying that Trump isn't fit to serve a second term. So she's trying to kind of do some mind games with that as well.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And it's so interesting. It's going to be interesting to me to see how much of the time is spent on what you just described, kind of former President Trump going against the policies of the Biden administration, or maybe some of the flip-flopping or changing of positions for Kamala Harris
Right.
going against Trump. Do you think either of them will get to a point where they can get to a policy discussion and their vision for the future of the country?
Yeah, and that's the big question, and that's the hope, I'm sure, for voters that are tuning in to find out exactly what they're laying out. And Harris actually just added to the issues section of her website just overnight, with 2 days until the debate. Today marks 50 days since she announced her intention to seek the Democratic nomination. So they have that filled out on her website. It's much of what she's been saying on the campaign trails, talking about cutting taxes for the middle class, making rent and mortgage more affordable, talking about reproductive rights. They call it fundamental freedom, so from reproductive rights to civil rights. So she outlines a bit of that. She also talks a bit more about minimum wage, though she doesn't say what she wants to raise that to. And then Trump also has his policy section on his website outlining things like rebuilding the economy, ending inflation, securing the border, so things that we've heard from both of them. But whether or not they get into exactly how they're going to do these things and how they're going to follow through on the promises, both of them for both of those candidates, remains to be seen.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And as we look at how the moderators will play out in all of this, we've been talking today about this concept of both of these candidates have really high floors. Their base is really locked in, but they kind of have low ceilings in that neither one of them are super popular. So there's kind of that very small movable middle that will ultimately decide this campaign. What do you think each candidate needs to do with that movable middle that could be crucial to them, especially in those swing states?
Yeah, the movable middle is a good way to put it. And I think from talking with voters on the campaign trail, many of them that are maybe in the middle on this, independent, undecided, some of them don't like the more personal attacks that former President Trump does. So maybe if he goes on some sort of tangent, whether a personal attack or grievances with the court, challenges and things like that, that might turn off some undecided voters, at least some of the people I've talked to on the campaign trail. And then for Harris, on her end of picking up independent voters, maybe talking to those folks that are, maybe Republicans that don't want to vote for Trump and maybe could come over. She just got that endorsement from former Vice President Dick Cheney, so maybe that could help in this case, in this movable middle. But it really all remains to be seen on that turnout, and if they decide to vote for one of them or just leave their ballot blank or write in someone else.
Absolutely. As you make your way to Philadelphia, I'm going to put you in the moderator's chair, which I think News Nation should do the next debate anyway. So maybe this is just a test drive for you, Kelly. If you were sitting in the moderator's chair, what is it that you would really want to press each of those candidates on?
It's a good question. I think I really would like to get to the meat of these policies from covering them today on News Nation and really kind of, not getting to the main details of it. I really would want to press them on how exactly they plan to pay for it, to, give $25,000 to first-time home buyers to help them with their down payment. That's on Harris's plan. For Trump, how is he going to cut all these things and cut all these reductions and things like that he's mentioning? How exactly are they going to follow through on these plans? Because they're making these promises to our viewers and to Americans, but will they be able to keep them?
Yeah, absolutely. And then final question for you. What's one thing maybe underneath the headlines that you're going to be watching for as you get to Philadelphia for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think, we'll be in the spin room, so we'll be kind of talking with some names that are in there, maybe some names that are, people aren't maybe kind of going to. We'll try to follow up with them afterwards. But I think just the overall color of this debate and maybe talking with folks in Philadelphia about how they're feeling. PA is a huge battleground. I know that's a big headline, but really kind of diving into that issue. It's my home state. I know my home county of Luzerne County, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton is a big county to win over. So I think focusing in on all of that would be important.
Oh, I love it. Kelly Meyer, Washington correspondent for our friends at News Nation, on the road to Philadelphia. She'll be there to your analysis of what actually does take place and who it moves, if it moves any of those movable middles, if it makes a difference as we march our way towards that first Tuesday in November. Kelly, thanks so much for making time for us on a very busy day. Travel safe to Philadelphia.
Thank you.
All right, that's Kelly Meyer joining us on the road to Philadelphia. You don't get that very often. Kelly joining us. She's a Washington correspondent for News Nation. She's based in their D.C. bureau, and always great perspective there. And I love the way that they're going about looking at what this debate means. Again, most debates become pretty irrelevant pretty fast, maybe a one-liner, a little zinger here or there. But I think this is a different race and a different place that the country's in right now. And so tomorrow, the stakes, I think, are a little higher than normal when it comes to debate. Will both candidates clear the do no harm? Will both candidates be able to focus on what matters most? What's the essence of their message, especially to that movable middle in between the high floors and low ceilings that both candidates seem to possess? Will either candidate, as Kelly pointed out to us, will either of them get to the specifics of how they're going to pay for this stuff? And how's it actually going to work? Or are these just sweeping generalities and talking points? Will the moderators really press and question and follow up in terms of those specifics? And who will be able to manage their weaknesses the best? Those are all the things that we'll be watching as we march our way towards tomorrow night in Philadelphia. We're going to step aside for some bottom-of-the-hour news. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue on with Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. A third district judge has scheduled a hearing for Wednesday in a lawsuit trying to keep a constitutional amendment off the ballot. The amendment deals with the initiative process. It's come under scrutiny because of the language used in the ballot question. Groups trying to block it have also added a new allegation to their claims that the state did not adequately publish the amendment as is required by the Utah Constitution. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have found creative ways to celebrate President Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday today. Jenny Curtis hosting an all-day party at her home in South Jordan, where friends and family were making cards to give to others in honor of the prophet's admonition to reach out to the one.
He doesn't need another letter. Remember, he asked us to serve other people. I bet he's getting tons of cards today.
Curtis's goal is to reach 1,000 cards by 7 o'clock tonight. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's now an arrest warrant out for 32-year-old Joseph Couch, accused of shooting at a number of vehicles Saturday along I-75 in southeastern Kentucky. 5 people have gunshot wounds. At least 12 vehicles were struck. The search is centered on an area north of London, Kentucky. Your money at this moment, at the close of trading, the Dow Jones average was up on the day 484 points. The NASDAQ up 193, and the S&P 500 was up 62. And our KSL weather. There is a chance for a thunderstorm south of the Salt Lake area. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Tommy! I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Lowe's knows to start fall projects, you need reliable outdoor power equipment from Ego. Right now, get your choice of a select 56-volt blower or chainsaw for $249. The 56-volt technology powers over 80 tools, so you can switch from blowing leaves to cutting trees with ease. Save time and money with Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power. Valid through 10/2 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Item number 5207558 and item number 4354078.
You don't have to jump through hoops for a night of ultimate entertainment. Leave that to the professionals. This September 20th and 21st, Utah Symphony presents Cirque Cinema at Abravanel Hall. Acrobats, aerial artists, and more will dazzle on stage as the full orchestra performs familiar film music. Get your tickets now at utahsymphony.org/pops.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, so we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
We are back to a quiet commute in the valley. If you're traveling any of the freeways, no accidents, no delays. Our main secondary is also in good shape. We have had a little bit of busy traffic going northbound on Bangerter Highway, approaching the 201 junction. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
I have 93 today with a chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. About the same Tuesday and Wednesday, then we cool down to the 70s Thursday and Friday. And right now, 93 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. It's great to be with you as always. In today's complex regulatory landscape, the concept of a permission slip economy, or a Mother May I kind of economy, has emerged as a significant barrier to innovation, to growth, to individual liberty. From housing development to energy projects, businesses and individuals often find themselves navigating this incredibly complicated, intricate web of permits and approval that often slows, if not completely kills, progress. So as we examine the balance, and I think there's a balance between necessary oversight and economic freedom, I think this is a space where we could get pretty radical in terms of some reform that would reshape the country's future for the better. We often turn to Veronique DeRougy, contributing editor at Reason. She's a senior fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Has a great piece about government permitting and what it's doing to the economy, and joins us on the show. And Veronique, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start with the permission slip economy. That may be the best labeling and branding that we've had in a while. We know there's been a lot of things going on relating to U.S. Steel of late in terms of trying to sell the business. Give us a breakdown of that and then how that applies to this whole idea of permission slip economy.
So, I mean, basically I didn't have time or space to actually list everything that we Americans or people living in this country and working in this country and investing in this country and building in this country have to ask permission for. But what I wanted to actually kind of say is it's become utterly crazy. There's nothing that we do where we don't first have to ask permission to the government before we do it. If you want to build on your property, the government has already dictated all sorts of things that you can't do, that for instance, there are places where all you can build is a single family home. Other places is you can't have mixed use, or and for energy projects, the permitting process takes years and years and years. If you want to sell your company to another company, you have to ask, basically, the government can actually block it. Sometimes it's because of size. Sometimes it's because of who wants to buy it. Sometimes, everything you can think about, we have to ask. The government can interfere and basically say, no, you can't do this. And I think kind of, we have these rules, and I agree with you. There's a balance. There's the balance to be had, but we have no balance right now.
Right.
Yeah, we have no balance. I even said, in my intro, it's like the airlines had to ask permission to the FAA to be able to distribute hand sanitizer during COVID to their passenger.
Wow. Yeah, there are so many things that just seem so common sense, and so many of it. And you listed these so well in your piece. And I love this idea that look, this isn't just stifling, businesses moving forward, which it is, but even a lot of the things that people say, hey, we're all on board. Let's do, let's build a project, let's build a bridge, let's do green energy. And many are finding that even those kinds of things can't get off the ground because the permitting process, as you said, is years or longer, and is incredibly costly and includes a whole bunch of lawsuits because of the permitting process.
Yes. So, I mean, for energy projects is actually really, some of the worst. And even the one that the Democrats, for instance, who were very much in favor of this long permitting process, because a lot of the stuff is environmental, and it takes years and years and years and years. And now, apparently, there are a bunch of judges who've started saying, even if you've spent years getting those permits, if we are lobbied by special interest who thinks that the permitting process wasn't rigorous enough, we can actually kind of just suspend that permission. And it's really the economic impact is terrible. But if you think about just the permitting process just for housing, right, individual housing, and whether it's homes or apartment buildings, and is so long and is so restrictive that there are cities that have very high demand because they're very rich job markets with higher wages. They have serious shortages of housing, which means that the price of housing is extremely high, whether you buy or whether you rent. And what that means, right, is that people who want to leave job markets where there's high unemployment and lower wage, usually they can't even go to these markets that would have much better jobs for them, right, because they can't afford the rent.
Yeah.
And the rent is artificially inflated due to all these government restriction. And these government restrictions is the government saying, no, you can do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. If you do it, you have to do it by jumping through all those hoops. And it just and you multiply this at the scale of all the things that are the most important for us, and you get really an economy that's not just really expensive, but also we're extremely constrained.
Right. Yeah, and that is such a big concern. I love that you put in the piece some of the ideas that are out there in terms of permitting reform. Just run through real quickly a couple of those, whether it's a shot clock or some of the redundancy. Give us some of the things that we should be talking about when it comes to permitting reform that might change the dynamic.
Well, so I think kind of the ideal, the standard, right? And by the way, I mean, some of those permitting constraints are put very, very heavily on innovators. When people have to before they put out and market and sell new things, they have to show that nothing can go wrong. So basically, it makes it impossible to actually bring out innovations to market. So I think the default position should be that we shouldn't have to actually ask for permission. We should be able to do it, and then if you do something wrong, then you pay the price, the consequence. Now, there could be some guardrails, of some minimum things that can be done to preserve life, but it's excessive now. Yeah. So permissionless innovation, permissionless building, permissionless working, permissionless, I think we should be the default. But short of this, a process that rather than say, well, first it's going to take 3 years to get this permit, and then you have to apply to that other permit, and then you have to apply to that other permit, which leads to sometimes 5 years, 6 years before you can even start a project. And usually the better and more capital-intensive project requires even longer. There should be a one-stop permitting that looks at the entire project, that issues all the permits all at once, and also we should put a clock on it.
Yeah.
It should say, I don't know, it should be 6 months. It doesn't seem crazy for me to demand. We have a lot of government employees. I think I actually just looked at 21.6 million government employees. No, not all of them at all levels of federal, state, and local. Not all of them right in the permitting business. But actually, I think that there's a lot of inefficiency everywhere, and I would put more people in order to actually really streamline and speed up the permitting process in the U.S. because it's really strangling the economy.
Yeah, no question about it. Fantastic piece, great thinking, great writing as always. Veronique DeRougy, contributing editor at Reason, also senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. And Veronique, always love to have you on the show. Great perspective.
Thank you for having me.
This is one we got to get back to, so we will keep on it. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you.
We'll step aside for one last break. When we come back, some final thoughts on the celebration of the 100th birthday of a world religious leader, Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some thoughts and experiences coming up next here on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
If you need a new roof, there's a reason IWC Roofing is the #1 residential roofing contractor in Utah. IWC has been replacing roofs for 27 years. They are professionals. You don't get some janky subcontractor fiddling around up there. You get experienced IWC employees on your roof, and they finish most jobs in a single day. They're in, they're out, and they power wash your driveway just to say thank you. Now you're wondering about the price. After all, IWC is one of the few Owens Corning Platinum certified contractors in the entire state, but they offer value pricing, and right now, take advantage of their fall special. $2,000 off your quote. And of course, they'll work with you on financing, so call IWC Roofing, the highest rated roofing contractor in Utah, plus $2,000 off. Right now, call IWC Roofing, 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690, or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
Join Tim Hughes this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Utah RV Super Show at Mountain America Expo Center.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I have a serious heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM. Some symptoms include being short of breath, feeling tired, or having dizziness or chest pain. I still had symptoms on my beta blocker, so I asked my cardiologist about any treatment advances. It was a breakthrough for me. That's why I'm working with Bristol Myers Squibb to raise awareness about HCM and to help others like me. Talk to your cardiologist today and visit hcmrealtalk.com for more information.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb.
Have you heard you can listen to your favorite news podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Enjoy shows like The Daily, Up First, and Consider This, available ad-free on Amazon Music. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free. That's amazon.com/ad-free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Gear up for your hunting season with the Shields Hunting Sale event going on now through September 15th. Take advantage of great deals, like getting a free blind bag and gun case with the purchase of a Benelli Super Black Eagle, 40% off the First Light Cypher collection, $100 off Lacrosse Optifade Alpha Evolution boots, and discover so many more in-store and online. Fill your bag to the limit on savings this hunting season, now through September 15th at Shields or Shields.com.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world.
Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the lawsuit challenging a constitutional amendment on ballot initiatives will get a hearing this week. Second, a woman in South Jordan threw her own 100th birthday party today for President Russell M. Nelson. And third, the Libertarian candidate for governor of Utah will be included in the televised debate on Wednesday night. 93 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. And, you know, once in a while and now and then, a pretty extraordinary soul quietly enters the world stage and often ends up shaping a better world over the course of a lifetime. And 100 years ago today, just such a soul came into this world and onto the scene. It was September 9th, 1924. Russell M. Nelson was born. Today, 100 extraordinary years later, the trail of impact, the ripples of influence continued to grow and expand, and today is a celebration for a world religious leader that has changed, shaped, and transformed the field of medicine and the faith of millions around the world. Looking back, I recall that following the announcement in January of 2018 that Russell M. Nelson had become the prophet and president of the Church of Jesus Christ, several national news organizations wrote some pretty interesting things. I was actually here in the studio that day, and they said that President Nelson's administration would be a caretaker administration, not making any waves nor instigating any kind of significant change. Looking back now on his 100th birthday and almost 7 years as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Russell M. Nelson's time, I think, could be stamped transformational, but only if you also stamp it urgent, with a breathtaking speed. This has been a man in a hurry and on a mission from the time he was young, but particularly during his time as president of the Church of Jesus Christ. He has used timeless principles and doctrines to drive timely adjustments and all kinds of invitations to inspire members of the faith and countless others around the world to do, to be, and to simply become better. Now, the children in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sing a song called Follow the Prophet. And anyone who has covered the global ministry tours of Russell M. Nelson would more accurately describe it as chasing or simply trying to keep up with President Nelson. His pace is extraordinary. His stamina, unbelievable. I witnessed in South America him speaking for 45 minutes in Spanish, 3 times in 3 countries in a single 24-hour period. Now, the list of accomplishments of Russell M. Nelson as a medical professional and as an apostle and leader in the Church of Jesus Christ are long, even staggering. Even if you spread them out over 100 years, it's still amazing. His resume is significant, it's stunning, and yet I believe it's the principles that he believes and actually lives that is the driver, the thrust, and the main force behind those results. So the results are impressive and important, but they're also instructive and inspiring. And as I've had the opportunity to chase President Nelson around the world on several of his global ministry tours, and in honor of his birthday, I wanted to share just a couple of my favorite observations and the principles that I learned from a most extraordinary world religious leader. I will never forget, after a devotional with a large gathering in South America, President Russell M. Nelson had come down from the stand to shake hands with some dignitaries, some special guests who were in attendance. And he worked his way down the line, introducing and making connection, thanking these visitors for coming. The world sort of stood still for a moment when President Nelson and a little boy who was standing on the far side of the hall behind a rope line locked eyes. The little boy could not be held back. He jumped the rope line and began to run full speed toward President Nelson. And the jailbreak was on. A number of other children jumped the rope, and they all began sprinting towards President Nelson. And I confess that there was a moment of nervous pause as everyone kind of looked around and saw these children racing at President Nelson. But before anyone could do anything, President Nelson had already dropped to his knees and scooped the children up into his outstretched arms. On his knees, it was as though President Nelson held the future of a nation in his arms. He widened the welcome. He encircled the little ones as he gathered them into his loving embrace. And that's a principle that I have learned, this encircling instinct from President Nelson that he has exhibited so many times in so many places to people suffering heartache and loss and struggle, to world religious leaders and many more. From the Isles of the Sea to stately palaces, parliamentary chambers, presidential offices, President Nelson has stood among the great and noble of the earth, and he's declared before kings and magistrates that life is just better with God in it. And he shows such leaders that the members of the Church of Jesus Christ bless their neighborhoods and communities, and that those communities help form stronger countries. Another principle that he shares often. As a world religious leader, President Nelson has an amazing ability to simply connect with these leaders of nations in a handshake, in a greeting, in a personal observation. One of the things I've always noticed is many of these, quote, political meetings, they're typically scheduled as very quick introductions with a head of state, but often with President Nelson, they would be extended and extended as these world leaders recognize something different about President Russell M. Nelson. I watched him meet government leaders in Tonga and Tahiti, Samoa, New Zealand, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Cambodia, Vietnam, and even the Vatican, just to name a very, very few from his lifetime of travel. Many have come to really recognize and appreciate President Nelson's side-by-side leadership. I think it is a trademark and hallmark principle. He links and locks arms with good people everywhere. I was once with a group who commented on his side-by-side leadership, and I talked about how much I admired this linking and locking of arms that President Nelson so naturally does. And one of the people in the group commented that he was just doing that because he was old and he needed balance. But another member of the group immediately shot back, "Oh, no, this has nothing to do with balance. In fact, if you aren't ready, President Nelson will dislocate your shoulder as he pulls you in." And I've seen him do that. From leaders of the NAACP in Detroit. We talked with Reverend Teresa Deer about that earlier in the show today. I've seen him embrace imams in New Zealand after a tragic and horrific shooting in their mosque. President Nelson is a prophet that walks and locks arms with all kinds of people in all kinds of situations. As President Nelson visited with members in Montevideo, Uruguay, he was asked if it was difficult for him to leave behind his medical career when he was called to be an apostle in full-time church service. President Nelson didn't hesitate. He said, "I walked through the door, walked into a new room, closed the other door behind me." It was such a great lesson. Life is filled with doors, and how we approach them usually determines our destiny. And his example of opening doors, moving through them without looking back, I think is also worth emulating as we try to navigate a lot of our own doors on life's journey. I think it's also interesting, President Nelson's wife, Wendy Nelson, has said that the older her husband gets, the more President Nelson is enchanted and obsessed with the future. He has a continual urgency about everything that he's doing and trying to do. He's always about making next now. In fact, our good friend, Reverend Amos Brown from the historic Third Baptist Church of San Francisco actually put a name to it. It's a made-up word called tangibilitate. It's a way to make things understandable, touchable, obtainable. And Amos Brown described President Nelson as someone who tangibilitates the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we could spend hours and hours just talking about those two religious leaders and what they have done to foster a most unusual friendship and create most compelling conversations about some crucial conversations in our country. Now, as President Nelson continues on and as we look forward to the celebration that will take place later this afternoon, I want to close out today with a quote from Rabbi Laurel Holtzblatt, who described the role of a prophet as someone to be able to see beyond the world you're in, to imagine that something can be different. That is the job of a prophet. And it is a rare prophet who not only imagines a new world, but also makes that world a reality. Well, by that definition and by every possible measure, President Russell M. Nelson is indeed a prophet. At age 100, he is driven to encircle the world in his embrace, link and lock arms, tangibilitate the gospel, and always leave the 90 and 9 to find the one who is in need. Happy birthday to President Russell M. Nelson. That wraps it up for Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos, filling in today for Jeff Kaplan. Dark clouds in downtown Salt Lake City and 90 degrees. KSL's top story. A district court has agreed to hear a lawsuit asking for an amendment on citizen initiatives to be removed from the ballot. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera is live with the latest. Eric?
Maria, the plaintiffs in the redistricting case against the Utah legislature are